Back live recording of Nourish the Risktakers. I'm your host Marisa Lowen. I'm joined today with Elle Billing. I don't know. It's Friday. We're recording this, but we are at Nourish the Risktakers with Elle Billing. Elle, welcome. How are you
Hi,
today?
I'm here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a Friday. It's a Friday.
That's just a legit I am here.
I am
Elle,
here.
before we go and dive into talking about nourishing the risk takers, would you give us just a short introduction of who you are and what you do in the world?
Yes, my name is Elle Billing. I am an artist at Elle and Wink Art Studio and a podcaster at Hoof Podcast. I'm also a caregiver of one of my parents, and yeah, that's what I do. I'm an artist, a caregiver, and a podcaster.
Excellent. And you're more than that.
Oh,
You're a
I'm a lot more
person.
than that.
Yeah,
I'm
you're a person out in the world.
yes, I'm an auntie. I'm a godmother. I'm an educator. Um, yeah, I'm a lot of things.
You're a lot of things. You are.
Yep.
Um, I know when I first started talking about nourishing the risk takers, you were one of the first that were like, yes, I would like to be on this and I would like to talk about it. Just to start off, what does nourish the risk takers mean to you?
To me, nourishing the risk takers is about uh, providing care and support for people who are doing the same for others.
Mhm.
As a caregiver myself, I know I need a lot of support and care. I have a parent who lives with a degenerative disease, and I actually took a really big risk. I left a career in education. I had a pension. I had full-time benefits. I left that career, sold my home, moved 1,000 miles, and moved back home with my parents to help take care of my mom. And
Mm.
part of that was because of my own disability and illness. Part of that was due to burnout in the education field. And part of that was really because my parents needed assistance. Um, for many years, I thought that I looked at my life and I thought, I can't imagine doing anything other than teaching. Like, this is my calling. This is my job. This is where I belong. And then it got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
And it's scary and it is a huge risk to leave stability and move into the unknown.
Mhm.
Um, and for me to find a community that supports, for one, that to care for caregivers is really important, but also to find a community that could help me as a very clueless business owner. I've said before many times, I do paint.
Mhm.
I'm an artist. I never wanted to be a small business owner. I just wanted to paint.
Right.
But in order to get the paintings from my studio out to the people who want them on their walls, there are a lot of steps in between those two points, and um, I needed people to show me how to do that. And I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know what kind of help I needed, and so all of these things were really risky for me and very kind of frightening. And so to be able to find the kind of nourishment and the kind of help I needed in
Mhm.
a way that was collaborative and not competitive.
Mhm.
That's to me what nourishing risk takers and what caring for caregivers and what fostering um, creative people and creative practices and creative businesses is like. That's the thing.
Right. And it's interesting, like artists, of course, that was my background, is the artist world and helping artists create that. We're living in a really interesting time where artists have to often make the decision to make things that are commercially marketable or commercially accepted, and making the art that really lives inside them and the messaging that they want to create into the world. And there is often a disconnect and an inability to sell the art they really want to make. And so I think there's an interesting aspect that we can talk about on nourishing the risk takers, especially when we look at artists, when we look at creatives, when we look at the things that we make them do in order to pay their bills or be fed. Like you're working for yourself, you have a small business, but it's not like you get to just always, make really what's in your heart or make what you really want to do.
It's true. I had previously taken like an independent artist little workshop thing, and the advice is always niche down, niche down, niche down, because there's so many artists
Right
out there. There's so many of us trying to make
Yeah.
it as independent artists, and you want to find the thing that you can do that nobody else can do as well as you
Right.
do. If I niche down, I'm going to be painting for an audience of one, which is me, which is fine. Like that's really who we paint for anyway.
Absolutely.
I'm really, really weird.
Yeah.
Like my aesthetic sense, my personal experience, and that's I think true for every artist, is we paint what we know. And then the marketing it to a wider audience is really hard, or can be. But I'm also multi-passionate, and so niching down has always been really hard for me, and finding that balance between what's sellable and what is in my heart that's where I've struggled.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it's real. It's very real. And I think we
yeah,
don't talk about this enough. Like it is, I mean, a lot of times people will say, well, why don't you just make the thing that people sell? Sure. I
like
guess we
I
have to
don't
do that.
right, but I also don't want to make the stuff that you find at Target necessarily. Although I do have friends whose stuff has been picked up and sold in Target, and it's
Yep.
amazing.
Yep.
But I don't think some of the pieces that I make have mass appeal. Like not everybody wants, well, some of it couldn't be because I use licensed books. I tear them up and put them in as
Right.
collages. That can't be mass produced again for like a Target or a Michaels
Right.
or whatever. But some of it, like not everyone's gonna want a painting that has, pages torn out of like a 1927 Grey's Anatomy,
Yeah.
anatomical drawings in it.
Or
Like that's
medications. You had a line of
I
medications.
did. I did for Migraine Awareness Month last year. I did a series that had each painting had a gold pill on it to talk about the cost of drug prices. That's an important conversation, but not when another corporation is going to pick up and want to sell.
Right.
Because I'm
Or,
critiquing the exact system, right?
or that you have enough, the other, side of it is that you have enough like clout or collectors or, a significant audience that will pay for that one-off piece of art. I mean, because I talk about
Right.
this all the time with clients is like, license what you don't love. And then the ones that you do really love, put a high price tag on because it's a one of a kind, right? But that's not realistic when you don't have the collectors with the cash lined up and ready to buy your next painting.
Right. And that collection of migraine paintings, every single person who bought one, it resonated really strongly with them because they also live with neurological disease like I do.
Right.
And one of my collectors bought 3 of them. They wanted a
Right.
trio. So they have 3 of these brain pieces in their home.
Fantastic.
Um, and it really resonated with them because they also live with migraine disease.
Yeah.
Um, and that that's why I do what I do. I want it to resonate with people. I don't want to just sell something pretty, although I have an aesthetic sense. I like
Yeah.
it when my things like look good, but I also want it to connect with people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's risky.
It's
especially when
totally
I
risky.
especially when I'm disabled and I have a restrictive diet that costs a lot of money
Right.
and I need to eat and go to the doctor and provide all these things for myself.
Yeah. So how do you think we
So,
can nourish artists? What are some of the things that I mean, other than buy art, I guess is like, it's a good, easy one to do.
yes, you should
But
buy art from
buy art.
independent artists and
Yeah.
not from mass big stores.
Yeah. Yeah. Like walk away from the Marshalls art section because the funniest thing I ever saw was in like our Home Sense, which is like Marshalls or TJ Maxx, and there was like this mass produced canvas that said "by handmade," and I took a picture of it because I was like, this
Oh
hurts
my
in
god. It
so
does. It
many
does.
ways. but it's just like, it also made me laugh. And another lady, as I was taking the picture, this other lady comes up and she's like, oof. She's like, isn't that a statement? I'm like, it is a statement. It's a sad statement. But this is where we're at. So yes, buy art. But then how else do you think we can nourish artists?
That's a really good question. We can nourish artists by, I mean, if art isn't in your budget, because I know it isn't for everybody,
Mhm.
there are ways to support their businesses in other ways by um, asking artists, "What do you need?"
Mhm.
um, and a lot of the time, we're very frustrated with social media because the algorithms are changing, or because rules change, or because our reach gets limited by certain things. Um, and I think a really basic way to support an artist is find somebody you like and sign up for their mailing list, because
Mhm.
that's really helpful, because we know those get out even if we don't know our social media posts make it to
Right.
who we're hoping to.
Yeah.
Um, and actually open the emails that you get from
Yeah.
artists, or from
And
any, if you sign up for an email list, please open the emails
yeah, and
if
click
they're
through.
from and click through, because we actually track those things, and those actually help emails get through the next time to the people that have signed up for our emails.
Yeah.
It's just such a simple step. I have friends whose emails that I read and click through, even though I know I'm not in the market for their
Yes,
collection right now, because I know that it helps the emails reach the clients who do want their art right now.
absolutely.
Um, and I know that's just playing a numbers game, but that's what we depend on right now.
Yeah.
That's just how we have to play the game right now. Um, and tell your friends. Like, if you have a friend who's moving into a new home or to a new apartment, or who's painting or redecorating, like, tell them about artists you know. I just
Yeah.
had a friend text me on Saturday and say, "I moved into my new apartment. Do you have anything big?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I do, actually. I have several big paintings that I've been trying to sell for a year. Here's the link." And within
Yeah.
15 minutes, he had purchased one of my favorite paintings. And
Yeah.
I do a happy dance every time I sell a painting, and it's sort of like this little involuntary, like, ee! Very similar to my happy pizza dance,
For
which
sure.
is also an involuntary thing that happened when I discovered a restaurant had vegan cheese.
Yeah.
So it's like all these little happy joys that accumulate in my day. It's like, "Oh, yay, something worked."
Yeah.
And I was doing my little happy dance and I started crying. I was so excited because I love this painting and it was going to somebody I know, and, like, the whole transaction didn't feel like a transaction
Right.
because it was personal. I knew they wanted it. They specifically sought me out. The whole thing felt like a conversation rather than just a simple sales transaction.
Right.
And so knowing who in your life is making those kinds of changes as far as, like, home in their homes, and trying to hook them up with artists that you follow or appreciate or enjoy is actually a good way to support people both ways. It's like a mutual thing.
Yeah, and I always like to like recommend people like nominate artists for projects, nominate artists for awards. If you happen to be signed up to newsletters from your municipalities, your states, your province, your federal government, there's a lot of art competitions that artists don't know that they can be a part of, and
Yes.
it's an awesome opportunity where you can say, hey, I don't know if you have time for this or you're interested, but here's like a link. Same with grants and funding. Like, be on the lookout for the artists in your lives for those opportunities, because they're busy in front of a canvas, or they're drawing, or they're listening, or they're editing, or they're doing whatever their art looks like, and can't always be on the lookout for funding sources or cool projects they get to be a part of. We have a local artist here that does murals on walls, right? So like,
Mhm.
the best thing is your friend's opening up a restaurant, you're like, it look really cool, a mural. you know and being able to
Yes.
recommend, like you said, recommend those. Sometimes it's different audiences. Public art is a huge opportunity. There's so many new buildings. I don't know how it is in the States, but we have so much percentage of a new project that is allocated to having art built either into it or inside of it or outside of it, in order to bring, just a better experience to people. So those competitions often, don't have that many people applying for them because people didn't know they existed.
Yeah, I had a friend send me the information, the submission guidelines for an art fair in her community. She said, "Hey, I think you should do this." And what was great is that all the emerging artists, first time participants, that art fair provides the tent. So, which
Cool.
is a huge cost for people who've never done an outdoor event before,
Yeah,
which can be really cost prohibitive. But if you're a first time participant, they will like let you use their equipment. And that's
cool.
huge. And so if you have a favorite art fair or art show or event, or you see one out there, tell your friends and um, who are artists or artisans. And it's the same idea as the contests or the competitions or
Right.
submissions for public art. Like, I'm doing so much during the day in a very limited amount of time that I have when I'm alert and in less pain, because I only have a few good hours where I can really be productive during the day, that most of the time I'm not looking for those opportunities.
No.
I'm painting, I'm catching up on paperwork, I'm eating, I'm napping, and I'm helping my mom, or I'm taking care of my dog. There is no time in any of that for me to be looking for alternative avenues of revenue or alternative places to show my art.
Yeah,
I get a little tunnel vision. It's like I have my 3 things that I do and I do those, and then I forget there's all of this other world out there. And
absolutely.
I think that happens to a lot of us because we get in our routines and we just do what we've been doing, and then we're like, oh, there's this museum and that museum, and the mall does public art now, and I don't get out much, so I didn't know the mall did that.
Yeah,
Um, and then there's this cool art fair. Well, I could go, but where would I stay? Oh, my friend sent me the link. Maybe she'd let me stay at her house. Well, even that is a way of nourishing artists. Everything's
absolutely.
expensive, so
Yeah,
like let your friends stay there.
yeah,
If you show them the art fair, maybe open your house to them. That'd be cool.
yeah. I mean, there's so many things that we can say. Like, if you do own a brick and mortar store, consider selling a local made art. Or if you have a business and you want art on your walls, buy locally or rent or have like a buy program. A lot of our stores here or our businesses here will have art in their public, lobbies, and there's like a little QR code and you can just go over and you can buy that art, take it off the wall, and you've just come for an appointment, and then you go home with some art. And there's some really great opportunities where you can start to nourish the artists in your communities that doesn't really impact you, like in a like, it doesn't make it more difficult for you. Those companies that it's kind of a neat system. Like, you scan your QR
Mhm.
code and it's like it's just like unlocks. It's basically like an art, unlocks the art from the wall.
Wow.
Once you pay for it, you just take it off and you go, and then, like, the security guard walks over, puts another piece of art up. And those kind of things are possible now. As a business owner, like, I think that's an incredible thing that you can do in your community that doesn't really, it puts beautiful art in your lobby. It also, supports art being sold. We see restaurants all the time will have art hung. My hairdresser had art hanging that you could buy, right there. You just paid them and then, took it home with you. And I think those opportunities where we do a lot of those cross marketing opportunities is essential too. That's part of nourishing our community and nourishing our economy, as well as
Yes.
nourishing the artists.
There When I lived in Twin Falls, Idaho, they have an event there every spring called Art and Soul of the Magic Valley,
Nice.
and it's like a huge art contest where artists and businesses pair up. So the business will sponsor an artist, and
Yeah.
then they display their piece for like the duration of the contest, and then community members, you have to go to like the main hub and get a ballot, and
Yeah.
then you have to go all over town and visit all of these art
Oh,
exhibits, and then you vote on your favorite.
right.
And then at the end, there's like cash prizes for the artist, like best in each category. And it lasts like a month and a half. And it's a big deal. They've been doing it for years and years. And it is a great way to get artists and art into the entire community because it's businesses all over town. It's a great way to get people into those businesses.
Yes.
And it's a great way for artists to like get, I mean, you can win like a significant amount of money. I think any amount of money is significant actually
I mean,
at this
yeah,
point. But I'm like, yeah, I'd take $50. I'd take $1,000. But it's every like artists look forward to it every year, and um, you see art all over. Some of it's outside big sculptural work, and some of it's inside um, in the restaurants and cafes and the
yeah,
tire store, like
yeah,
everywhere.
absolutely. And I like the some of the things I've seen too is that in those instances where you can like scan a QR code and buy it, it's like, you know, the minimum price is $500, but you can actually pay as much as you want. And it's like being
Mhm.
able to do the tipping, being able to, you know, to top up, to actually express to you what that art means to you if you have the financial means is an incredible
Mhm.
way of sharing in the wealth and sharing in that experience and allowing someone to be able to create more art. That's the other thing too, is that, you know, we joke that artists sell their art to buy more art supplies, but it also pays their rent and their, you know, their cell phone and their internet and their Shopify and all of these things that they have to buy in order to sell the art. We kind of forget about all of these things to live as a human and then to operate as a business.
Yeah, web hosting fees and sales tax, and I'm just all of our everything costs money.
That's right.
So,
It does. So let's talk about nourishing as a caregiver. So you have chronic uh, illnesses and disabilities, and but
mhm.
you're a caregiver for someone else. Let's talk
Yes.
about that. Because at this point, you're nourishing somebody. You know, how does it look for you to be nourished in that process?
Um, I my dad and I do a lot of mutual support for each other. I moved out here after my mom spent 2.5 days in the hospital. That was when I decided that my parents needed help.
Right.
Um, I'm from North Dakota originally. That's where I live now. The culture here is very like Protestant work ethic-y. For those who don't know, um, I grew up like Lutheran. That's not really relevant except for the whole Protestant work ethic thing is like you work really hard and you help other people out, but you don't ask for help for yourself. So my mom went
Right.
into the hospital with a septic infection. Um, and she tried to get herself discharged. And she to this day thinks that my dad and the doctor ganged up on her to have her
Sure.
admitted. Um, Recently she's like, "Was I really that sick?" And my dad was like, "You were septic." And she's like, "Really? I was?" Like she doesn't remember it the way that it happened.
For sure.
So that happened. My partner and I were like, "I think something has to they need help. Like mom's going to die if we don't get help in there." Um she's at that stage between needing like being independent and needing a nursing home. She's in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah.
Um but if she didn't get help, like something bad would happen.
For sure.
So at about the same time, my illness was getting worse, and I couldn't perform my job duties. Um, I worked with deaf kids, and my arms were going numb, so I couldn't use sign language. It was a problem. So I offered to move home, and my parents had to think about it.
Mhm.
Um, my mom didn't want help, and my dad. We were on video with my parents, and my dad was like kind of behind my mom, going, and my mom's like, "Oh, I don't know if I need help yet." And my dad's like, "We'll talk about it." But he was like
Right.
nodding, and you could see the relief on his face. Like,
Right.
I didn't think I could ask for that. And I'm so glad you offered.
I mean, there's
And like,
caregiving for your mom, and then really that caregiving, you're seeing that actual caregiving and nourishing for your dad, who is basically
right.
shouldering all of that up until
And
this point.
still farming full time
Absolutely.
with his brother and his nephew. So in the winter, my dad and I do a lot of mutual support. I don't like to drive in the winter because it makes my fibromyalgia flare up.
Mhm.
Because the tense winter driving is
Yeah.
just too much for my body. So my dad does the driving for our appointments most of the winter,
Okay.
which is a nice way of taking care of me because winter driving is not good for me.
Okay.
But then in the spring, like coming up here, we're still under too much snow, so we haven't started planting yet. It's very stressful. Um, But starting when we start melting and they start getting ready to go in the fields, my partner comes out from Chicago and stays with us for about 3 months during planting.
Okay.
And then that's kind of a chance for me to do some recuperating and resting, because I am still doing a lot around the house. I'm doing laundry, I'm doing dishes, and I'm helping my mom with her PayPal account and her sewing machine and all these little things that come up that are kind of like you don't think about until it's just all day.
Yeah.
Um, Picking up prescriptions and running errands, and someone hacked a PayPal account. Someone changed your password. Was it you? No, I think it was actually, no, I think it was you. So my partner comes out to help because everything gets really busy in the spring. And it used to be when I was teaching, I would just really get stressed and exhausted in the spring, and I needed the help at home. And now we've just
Yeah.
shifted it to needing help here.
Yeah.
So then my partner does the lawn mowing and helps with the dishes and the cooking. And then I can just sort of rest on the house stuff and
Right.
focus on some art and some like self-care. And then in the fall or like midsummer, my partner goes home. And then in the summer and fall, I pick up all the driving, and my dad's working 16 hours a day. And that's when I get less care myself, except for just going to the doctor and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then once harvest winds up in the fall, then my dad and I kind of go back to more of the mutual support model
Mm-hmm.
that we kind of have carved out for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my biggest area of receiving care is usually those 3 months that my partner's here, and I can just really, I don't have to be as vigilant. I have a lot of hypervigilance with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She's a fall risk, and just having an extra set of hands and ears in the spring is really nice, because then someone is also cooking for me,
Right.
and which takes I don't I eat better when my partner's here, because when I'm cooking for myself, I'm living on boxed vegan mac and cheese and Beyond Burger and beans and rice and things that
Yeah.
are fast. And when my partner's here, I eat real meals.
Yeah. I
So
100% get that. So how are you with asking for help?
that is a learned skill. As far as my physical and like disability and chronic illness needs, I can do that now. I first got sick in 2013, and it took me a while. I tried to power through for a while, and I think that made no, I know that made me worse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, I'm much better now about just saying to one of my parents or my partner or whoever's around, like, "Hey, I need rest. I need help. I can't do this." Um, I was in an business help has been a little bit harder to ask for because I don't know what I need help on, or
Right.
even like what to ask. And I've gotten better at that.
Yeah.
Um, but I was really nervous at first because I didn't want to be seen as stupid,
Oh, okay.
which is silly
Yeah.
because like intelligence is a made up idea anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it's based in ideas of racism and white supremacy.
Yeah.
So like, who the hell cares if someone thinks I'm not intelligent, right?
But also, like, if you don't know, you don't know.
If you don't know, you don't know. So here's a huge, I wrote this down because I wanted to talk about a big difference in like asking for help and accessibility between like the accounting class I tried to take and being in the Catalyst. So I tried to take two accounting classes. I was taking payroll accounting and like intro to accounting so I could do my books
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And I was taking it at a community college online. Um, I started that August, and then in November, like, I was doing really well in the class. I hated it. I hated everything about it, but I was doing really well.
Yeah.
That November, my mom fell when we were outside, and she
Right.
smashed her face on the ground, and we had to call 911 because
Right.
she was injured, and I didn't know what to do. At first, I couldn't even get her up. I thought maybe she'd had a stroke while we were outside. But
Yeah.
by the time we're rural and all of our first responders are volunteers. So by the time they got to our farm, I had her up and inside and an ice
Yeah.
pack. But I still needed her checked out. It was very stressful. She looked awful.
I can imagine.
It was really scary. And I knew when I moved here, at some point I will need to call 911.
Right.
This is going to happen. But when it does happen, you're still not expecting it.
Right.
So that happened. The same week, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and maybe lupus. It's not
Yikes.
lupus. That week, they thought it was lupus.
Right.
It was a really bad week.
Okay.
My accounting professor had worked into the syllabus that we had a one-time use. You can extend your homework for a week. We just
Okay.
had to ask.
Okay.
That's what I did. I
Okay.
hear back from her. You didn't ask using the right means of communication. There were like 5 ways that we could get in touch with our professor. There was
Okay.
email, there was like a chat thing, and there were like ways through the class management software. There was a way
Okay.
through the homework server. Like there were like 5 different ways, and I happened to
Okay.
use the wrong one.
Well, how would you know
So
that?
she didn't give me the extension. Well, if I would have read the syllabus. I'm
Oh,
sorry, I have no spoons this week. I
yeah.
might have
Okay.
lupus. My mom fell and broke her face. Like
Yeah.
I'm barely functioning, but I was able to open up my laptop and send you an email. When I was teaching, I considered that good enough. If you tell
Yeah.
me what's going on, I will have the grace to give you an extension. I'm trying. So she's like, "No, you have to do it. You didn't do it the right way. You don't get the extension." And I was like, "This is like I can't find what you're telling me. Like my brain is not processing the information on
Sure.
the screen." I quit. I just stopped going to class.
Yeah.
It was
I've
just
seen this.
so at that point, it was so inaccessible
Yeah.
to my needs, to
Yeah.
my brain, to my illness, to my
Yeah.
life situation that I just quit.
I've seen this so many times. I've experienced it where it's just like the ask for accessibility is greater than the actual effort to give the accessibility, and so therefore that it doesn't happen. It just, I mean,
Yeah.
you try it once or twice and then you realize that the world is not meant to be accessible, and you're
Yeah,
just like,
I'm like,
okay, I
"This
guess I'll
this
just
isn't designed for me.
right.
This is not meant for me. I just wasted $1,200.
Yeah.
I'll eat it. I'll eat it."
Yeah, I've done it too. I've basically said, well, there's thousands of, I just can't. The ask for, again, the ask for accessibility is just greater than the actual task at hand, and it's just like, okay, I'll move on. And I know I'm not the only one. I know you're not the only one. I know that, like, I mean, it's just when when we live in a world where people who are in wheelchairs are, seen to be asking for too much. If they say, can you please just shovel the sidewalk so that I can get into the government building. We had a multi-million dollar building built here for our city, and I went to a consultation and saw that they hadn't built like wide enough doorways. So there's a gentleman who couldn't get through in his wheelchair. We had to help him transfer onto a chair, and then I had to fold up his wheelchair, get it through the door, bring it out, all in front of a huge audience of people. So not only does he not have the dignity of having a doorway that he can just stroll on through, but he has to then perform in front, like his disability in front of all these other people. And it's disappointing, right? Like that kind of stuff in a new building, we shouldn't have to be begging for this kind of accessibility stuff. It's just should be
Yeah.
standard.
So then I join the Create the Rules Catalyst
Yeah.
because I had already met you and had a couple sessions with you, and your way of working with people is super accessible,
Yeah.
very neurospicy friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you want, come on in.
Yeah. Like I'd had a couple one-on-one sessions. You helped me hammer out
Yeah.
some things for my podcast. You taught me about like how to do a 12-month rolling budget.
Yes.
Really basic things that like I didn't know because I've never taken a business class.
Sure.
And I'm inventing all this from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be a business owner. I just wanted to paint, right? All
That's
of
right.
like this stuff, right? So I joined, and my first day I was really nervous about it, right?
Yeah.
So I joined in November thinking I'm really going to use this in 2023, but I'll like
Yeah.
hop in the workroom right now or I'll never get over that hump.
That's
So I
right.
hop in and you're like, "Hey, welcome." I'm like, "Cool. How does this work?"
Yeah. How do
And
you
I
want
just
it to
like
work?
hang out and listen. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we really just like ask our questions out loud when we need
Yeah.
help. I
Yeah.
was like,
If you don't know,
can I schedule an appointment? And you're like, sure, but you don't have to. I
no,
was
you
like,
can just come in
I can
whenever.
just blurt out that I don't understand
Yeah.
SEO.
Yes. Yes, you can.
I can
Or
just
like, this
ask you to
isn't
look at my
working on my
website.
website, or this
Yeah.
isn't, I can't figure out how to hook this up. Okay. Doop,
Yeah.
doop, doop,
It's
doop,
like, I
doop.
don't grok this. You can do
Yeah.
it for me.
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Like the fact that there was one day where I was like, I don't know how to content plan. Like this is, I'm
Yes.
so burned out on this. And then Darcy was like, oh, here. And she gave me an entire map. And I was like, you're kidding.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, this is so easy. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
not
if you
easy,
don't,
easy. Like I still have to do work, but like I don't
sure.
have to work hard.
Yeah. But I've said to people, like, if you can't, like, you're like, today I got to put out something and I have no idea, like, just pop in the workroom and I'll be like, you can put out this, go put it out right now. And like,
The amount of stuff I have seen generated
yeah,
just from people saying I'm stuck on this, and then you or Darcy or somebody else going, oh,
yeah,
well, how about blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that was so cool. Like,
yeah.
and
Because
I'm
we
taking
take the
notes.
executive dysfunction out. Like, we don't have to, you don't have to sit there and go, I can't, because sometimes our brains just don't click,
Yeah.
and it's nobody's fault.
And
I
just the
have those
things
days
I've
where I
learned by
can't.
eavesdropping.
Yeah, and then you learn by eavesdropping, or you learn, or you just go, hey, can you write? And the next thing you know, we've written you 20 pieces of content that you can just throw out over the next couple weeks, because it's easy, because it's not our own business.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, we can look and say, oh, I can look and see what's working right now in social media. Here, try this, try this, try this, try this. And you don't have to go and figure out all the trends. You don't have to figure out all the pieces or stuff. I can say, like, set up your phone and record yourself just over the next hour, because that you can use that, those little 7-second clips of you just putting
I
the.
saw that TikTok you did. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I see it. And I did save it. I was like, that I always forget to I record myself, but then I forget to use it.
Yeah, I just keep
I
like
was like,
I keep a video folder on my phone. And then, like, the other day, I was like, wait, I recorded myself with a podcast a couple weeks ago. I don't feel like going on camera. I'm just gonna go upload. I uploaded it was like 54 minutes. And of course it's like, do you want these 7 seconds? I'm like, yes. Like, why was I didn't move I was like, I'm not even going to move to see if it's a different clip. I'm just going to take the 7 seconds it has told me that looks fine, and I'm just going to put some words, and then I went, right.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
nourishing me. I was like, I let that tool nourish me in that moment.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's great. There was and I know that there's other ways that the room has been designed accessibly, because I know there's at least one person using captions in there, and another
Me.
person is it's you. Yeah. Well, I didn't want to say that.
It's me. I need captions.
Yeah.
There's a caption happening right below here,
Yep.
so that I can hear what you're saying, because I have an auditory processing. That's just who I
Yeah.
am.
Yep. And I know somebody sometimes runs Otter, so they get transcripts of what we're working on.
Yep.
Like all of these tools are built in.
Yes.
And
Or if we don't have it built in, like, so I've had some people like, do you
we'll
mind if
add
I
it.
put this on Otter? I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't care. Like, if you have the tools that work for you, use them in the space as well. Like, there's no,
Yeah.
like, it's just like, what, or you need us to record this right now, this little blurb. Sure, let me just hit the record button, and then I can send you a link and you've got it afterwards. Those are those things where it doesn't take, again, it's no time, it's no effort on my part to make sure that those accessibility things are built in.
And the body doubling, I had never heard of that. You had said something about it on a Facebook post about when you join the Catalyst, you get these things. I was like, what's body doubling?
Yeah,
so I
the
looked it up
greatest
and I
thing
was
ever.
like, oh my gosh. I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD till I was 36 years old.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like, all the mysteries of my childhood unlocked. Like, why am I so anxious all the time? Like, why am I a burned out gifted child? Basically,
Yeah.
the secret to every burned out gifted child is ADHD. I swear.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of us who had great potential and now we're exhausted and in chronic pain, we had undiagnosed ADHD. So as soon as I learned what body doubling was, I'm like, that's why I can. That's the secret to why I can and can't do things. That's why I can't clean the garage unless my dad is also mowing lawn. Like, it makes so much sense.
in my 20s, I'd phone a friend. I'd talk to somebody for 2 hours and clean my entire apartment. I wasn't vacuuming, but I was like sweeping, doing dishes, loading the dishwasher, washing walls, washing windows, putting stuff away, taking my laundry down the hall. Like I did all of that on the phone. And now I look back and I go, oh, that's because I was already knowing that body doubling was what I needed. I needed to have that space of somebody else doing something in my proximity, even though it was over the phone, because she was also doing stuff. She was like painting or making stuff. She's like, oh, I'm making this thing. Okay, well, we'll sit here and talk on the phone. We weren't in the room together, which is where body doubling started. We were on the phone, and that's what we're doing right now in the Catalyst. You just come in, and even when there's nobody else in the room, there's something about setting yourself in that chair.
Yes.
I think it's where we're body doubling each other, like ourselves at that point, right? Like it's like I see myself, my avatar in that room. I'm here. I can focus and do my work. And I don't get it entirely. I don't understand it, but it works.
Yeah. My aunt used to call my mom when she was cleaning the bathroom. When we were kids, like if it was Saturday and the phone rang, we're like, Auntie Jerry's cleaning the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it was like this running joke for years. And now my sister does it. We're like, we were all just undiagnosed for like our whole lives.
That's right.
We all just needed body doubling. When my sister, she moved out to Idaho for a short time while I lived out there, I used to call her up and say, I'm cleaning my fridge. Can you come over?
Yeah.
And she would sit and drink the little bit, like I would have wine with just a little bit left in the bottle. She's like, well, I'll help clean the fridge. I'll take care of these wine bottles while you clean the rest of it. Like
That's
kind of as a joke. But like as long as someone was there,
absolutely,
I could clean the fridge.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
I can't believe how much that has opened up my ability to do admin tasks, which I hate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's like, but if I'm doing them with you and with Biba and with everybody else, and occasionally I get to hear us talk about some little side tangent, like Rob Lowe's kids trolling him on Instagram, it makes the day that much better.
Absolutely. And I think that's the other thing too, is nourishing ourselves, especially as business owners, as artists, is that we're not, and I said this to you right at the beginning, you're not just that, you are a plethora of other roles and identities as you move through your life. I think this is an important thing to realize, is that nourishing ourselves, it was really important for me to build a community where people could be their whole selves, so they didn't have to just show up. I saw in a lot of Facebook groups where people were going through things and they're like, this isn't business related. And it's like, how is it not business related? This is our entire life. We're caregivers, we're family members, we're going through stuff. It definitely came to a head when George Floyd was murdered. We saw all these people going through grieving motions and trying to figure out, policy changes, all the stuff that was happening. People were like, well, that's not business related. And it's just like, they are running a business and doing all this stuff. Of course it's business related. And I thought, what are we doing here, where we're like making people not be whole people because it's inconvenient or it makes us feel uncomfortable?
Well, that happened to me teaching even. I went through a divorce during my, how many years of teaching? Like a few years into my career, I went through a divorce, and it was really stressful. Divorce sucks. Even if you know it's the right thing to do, it's hard. And so where I had, I would say my first few years of teaching, Protestant work ethic, new teacher, I was putting in 120%.
Right.
Which I'm probably paying for now, because you got to rob Peter to pay Paul. Okay.
Course.
You're just borrowing from the future if you are putting 120% into work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I will say, and you're not being nourished. Okay.
That's right.
So I go through a divorce. I scale back to 80% at work, which, by the way, is still a passing grade. My supervisor comes to me and says, we notice that you're not performing as well as you usually are at a school. Okay. So, maybe, and she basically, the conversation she had with me was that I was grieving wrong, and that I should compartmentalize and leave home at home and work at work, and use my job, focus on my job as a way to cope with my divorce, which, like, worst advice ever.
Yeah. Like totally just avoid trauma.
And I was like, and I was like hurt and insulted and so many things by that. I was not nourished by that conversation. My other supervisor regularly came and checked on me and asked how I was, if I was safe, if I was sleeping, if I was eating, because
Yeah.
all of those things are very difficult to do when you're going through a divorce and you're living with the person that you're divorcing.
Yeah.
Eating is very difficult. Sleeping is very difficult. I was physically safe. I was never in any physical danger. Emotionally, I was a wreck.
Yeah, for sure.
And I did not feel nourished by that person for the rest of the time that they worked there because I really felt betrayed by one conversation. Now, that was my own baggage to carry. I didn't have to let one conversation ruin our entire working relationship. That was my choice.
But it was
Um,
also their choice to be
to
inconvenienced by
to
your
to be
experience.
inconvenienced by my divorce. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we are whole people at work. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, of course, I'm not gonna, like, take my divorce to the second graders and tell them about all my marital
No,
problems.
no.
No. But, like, yeah, it's gonna affect how I am, who I am, and how I am at work.
Yeah. Right. And you can't just
Um,
be like, I'm gonna sleep more tonight. Like that doesn't actually.
and I am, like, not able to compartmentalize. I've never been able to. And the times that I've tried have resulted in pretty significant mental health crises. So,
Right.
being able to be somewhere where, yeah, we get to be whole people,
Yeah.
because honestly, business owner is the least interesting thing about me, and probably
Yeah.
the least important thing about me when it comes down to it. I mean, yeah, I gotta stay on top of all of the business stuff so that it doesn't, like, make
Yeah.
the rest of my life fall apart,
Absolutely.
but I maybe spend 3 hours a day working, you know? That's a very small percentage of my day.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a whole person outside. So how are you at receiving help? You mentioned earlier that sometimes it could be a struggle for you to ask for help, but how are you at receiving nourishment?
I'm getting better. Um, I think I now at this point, a week before my 38th birthday, I would say that I'm pretty good at it, at receiving it. Um, Sometimes I have to be reminded of the tools that I've been given.
Right.
It's like, "Oh, yeah, I do have a content planner." Like,
Right.
"Oh, yeah, I can ask for writing help."
Yes. You can come into
Like,
the catalyst. Yes.
I can have someone, like, do a thing for me. There are
Yeah.
people who know SEO.
You can
I
have
don't
people who edit your podcast.
Yeah, yep, I do have someone editing that for me, yep. I wouldn't even be doing a podcast if I didn't have somebody who knew audio.
That's right.
I just didn't have the energy or the time to learn a new skill. I
That's
don't.
right.
Um, so I think I'm pretty good at receiving nourishment and help. Um, I do sometimes worry that I'm not contributing enough to the workroom because my skills aren't to a point where I can give back to other people yet. I'm very
Oh,
creative.
you
See, I'm very
oh,
creative, but, like,
okay.
I don't feel like I'm giving enough to
Well,
people yet.
but I guess what you have to think about is like, you know, uh,
But then I
some people
remember
come in
just being in the room
the
is
room.
it's
Yes, just
enough to
being in the
be
room,
in the room.
right?
Yep,
Because I mean, think about when somebody hops into that room and they just see your avatar there,
yeah.
right? You can not have a whole conversation, but that person's going to sit beside you on the, make believe little table that we have, and they're going to work alongside you. So you're bringing in that body doubling, you're bringing in that presence. You add to the conversations all the time. You tell us stories, you bring us in delightful things, you share your art, which is
Yep,
incredible.
thank you.
People have bought your art in there, and so that
That's
has
true.
also
Yep.
contributed to them, right? So that's you bringing your art to people who find joy with it. And this is the reality, is that like being in a community isn't, and especially in a business community, is hard. It's like I don't bring in my business sense. Well, you bring yourself in there. You
Yeah,
are bringing your business in there. You're bringing your process of working on things and your art, and that is so valuable. And it doesn't mean that you didn't contribute, because you did.
I appreciate that. Thank
The
you.
community is better because you're in it. That's
That's
it. That's
See,
the
that's
end of the.
some of that, like, again, that capitalist, like,
Yeah,
it has
a
to be
pitch of a
equal,
role.
like, tit for
Yeah.
tat. It's that tit for tat thinking that I have to, like, get out of there because it doesn't have to be the same thing for the same, like, that type of exchange. Like, a
No.
community doesn't have to work that way.
That's right. It shouldn't work that
It
way.
shouldn't. No.
It shouldn't be based on the value that you bring to the community. It's the fact that you're just there in the community,
Mhm.
right?
Well, it's
And
like
that you're part
I
of
think
it.
there's a line in Encanto, in, like, one of the last songs of Encanto that way. It's like, um, "The real gift is you. It's not some magic that you've got. The gift is who you are." Like,
Yeah,
it's
they
not the
focus a
skill
lot
or the
on
gift,
roles.
it's you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, everybody had a purpose, and it's like, well, what happens if you and a gift that you bring, and if you
Mhm.
don't have that gift or that purpose, are no, people still loved her, being in that space, and I think there's some interesting. Oh, we could keep talking about this forever and a day, but I do want to, we're at about our time here, so I know
Mhm.
that we'll probably we'll schedule another one, and we'll have more conversations about this, but is there anything you'd like people to know about, you and what you're doing in the world through your art? We've put up your
Yeah,
links and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's really good for them to know what you're creating and why.
yeah, I create, mixed media artwork, that tends to be pretty text heavy, but the text is usually hidden. I sandwich vintage text in between a lot of paint and other layers of goodness.
Right.
So I have some paintings on my website right now that use Berenstein Bears pages, but they're like sandwiched in between the paint. Um, and then they're all titled with song lyrics. So I like to mix up and mess around my inspirations and just make a real mess out of it. It's a lot of fun. And the
Beautiful mess.
collection that I'm working on right now, that will be part of a group show in June, is based on Ophelia from Hamlet, and also like Encanto somehow. No, like a lot of song lyrics
Okay. Okay.
from like Encanto, Frozen, Florence and the Machine. Uh,
Okay.
it's a real mishmash. I've had a lot of fun with it. That'll be going up in June, and those pieces will be available as well. My website is ellandwink.com, and my podcast is Hoorf, HOORF podcast.com, or Instagram at Hoorf podcast. And that is radical care in a late capitalist hexscape. So it's all creativity, creative process, caregiving, and such.
Definitely worth a listen. I enjoyed the episodes.
Thank you
Um,
very much.
So before we go, I always like to just again recognize the person I'm talking with. So Elle, you are incredible. We met. I remember our first session that we met. I was like, oh, I don't really know anything about this person who has booked a session. I think I did like a fundraiser for somebody, and you came in, and it was interesting hearing you because one, I could see you had so many messages, so many ideas, so many beliefs that you wanted to bring out into the world. But that it was a struggle. You were in a position where you were just kind of coming into this caregiving role. You did not want to run a business. You didn't want, plus you've got, disabilities coming, like all this stuff, all of it. And all I could hear was just this like, it was just like it felt like this message that you just really wanted to come out. And I knew, I'm like, okay, Elle just needs to have like support. Elle just needs to have some bridges. Elle just needs to have people reaching out and being like, how can we make this easy? How can we bring ease? How can we make it easier? And that you would just soar, that you would just be able to put the ideas and the messages. Now, what I love about you is that your messages are like chef's kiss. Like we're talking like from the medical. I mean, I'm still thinking about the medical, the pills. I'm still thinking about, these pieces that you have brought out. They start ideas in me with the artwork, just seeing that artwork and just having you be out there and just you do it boldly. You do it, very confidently in your art. I can see it. I can see it in there. And so I just appreciate that you are creating this art in the world, I know that you've got the struggles. I appreciate you as a caregiver as well. You're definitely a caregiver in the Catalyst as well. I can see that's just a natural thing for you in there, but I love how you show up. I love the ideas and the commentary that you bring. I love the perspective that you bring in. You definitely do look at all the sides and try to bring in this really nuanced, nothing is black, white. It's like gray, like oh, let's look at it this, let's play with it. And I think that's an essential skill that we need more of in the world, this kind of questioning and playing with these ideas that have just become norm because nobody has felt like challenging them, and you're out there challenging them with your art. And I love that about you. So thank you very much for being
Thank you.
in the world, but also in the Catalyst, in that space. It's an absolute honor to be in there, and you are so valued in there.
Thank you.
Just sitting in those rooms, I love seeing like, oh, there's Elle, that's great. I love seeing you in those seats. It's important to me, and I know it's very important to the other members of the community to have you in there.
Well, thank you for creating a space for us to go.
I'm trying.
No,
trying to bring a spot where people can be. It's
a good place to be. There's been days where my dad's about to lay down for his nap, and I say to my dad, come on, Winky, time to go log into the workroom. Gotta go see our coworkers. And my mom's like, you don't have coworkers. I'm like, I do now.
Yeah, we're creating there with you, and we'll have to get Winky a spot for her to sit in the corner. I'll make a room with Winky in it.
With a little dog bed.
Yeah, a little dog bed for Winky. I can do that.
Oh, that'd be so cute.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do anything. People are always
like, you can do anything. You can do anything.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we had a room that did this? I'm like, okay. Next thing you know, we have a dog bed room.
Yeah, we have a cat room and a dog bed for Winky.
Yeah, I can definitely put in a dog bed. That's I can do that. I can do that.
She's usually sitting right next to me. Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, maybe I'll put in like a chair. You know, everybody's kind of got their pets anyways. Maybe I'll put a chair in with a little bed beside, so people can kind of sit and bring in their pet with us. So that, I mean, we hear all the purrs and the barks anyways. So it's a full noise environment.
I'm always worried my mic is on when my mom comes in and says something.
I mean, everybody is.
Always worried that my mom's going to come in and say something.
No, but like,
or their own mom.
There's like, I don't know, 80% of people have intergenerational relationships happening in their homes. And so it's just a reality. I think we're building that space where you can be with other people that isn't necessarily the people that are in your home as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you very much. If you're watching this live, thank you for joining us. If you're watching this on the replay, do drop replay in the comments and be a part of this conversation. We, of course, are reproducing this for YouTube as well as an audio for podcast. So you can listen to this episode next week and wherever you listen to podcasts. And thank you so much, Elle, for being a part of the inaugural episodes of Nourish the Risktakers. I'm really excited to have you here.